is a game between Moroni and Jones. So they are both masters, very good chess players, and they start game with London system. So bishop f4. So this is a very classic move when the game turned into London system. And black play e6. So actually black has a lot more choices than e6. For example, knight f6. So here black just close this diagonal. So in the end, the very interesting thing we can figure out is how black developed this light square bishop later on. So white play e3. This is the dark square bishop is already developed, so e3 shouldn't be a problem. It won't like be blocking the dark square bishop. And black offering a trade, it makes sense because this f4 bishop is very powerful, so we offer a trade versus strong piece. So this is the very interesting point. So white usually have three choices in this position. One is accept the exchange, like taking the bishop. So this is not something I recommend because after black taking the d6 bishop, takes our bishop, so black has divided the piece and the position is very balanced. And there are two other moves. Another one is bishop g3, retreat to g3, and if white take our bishop, we can take that with the h pawn, and it opened up the h file. And later on, when we move the light square bishop to d3, we can target h7. But this like attacking pattern, I think, works only if black castle to the right. So if black play h6, knight f6, or and maybe knight c6 and move the pieces at the queen's like queen side, and then castle to the c8. So the attacking pattern at the king side, so won't be very helpful. So yeah, so this is the idea behind bishop g3. So in this game, so white play one last very common choice, that is play knight f3, which means I just want to stay, make my bishop stay at f4, and if you take my bishop, I will make the double pawn at the f file. So double pawn not good pawns, but the good thing for white is it has a very strong control at the e5 square, and later on white will do a lot of stuff at this square. And also this is semi-open file, so black can later, for example, attack, white can attack black in our upcoming moves. Okay, so this is the reason I really like to share this game. So let's see how white set up an attacking plan on the e file. So black played b6. This is what I said. Since the c8 bishop is blocked, so black need to figure out a way to divide the bishop. And black support the d4 pawn, developing pieces. Okay, so this is also a very classic move. So queen c2. We are kind of aiming at c5 and also this diagonal as well. Bishop a6. So this is a very interesting move. So as we said, the majority point at the center are on the light square. So black offering a bishop trade with the f1 bishop. So black has already offered one bishop trade earlier, and we offer another one since white has a better bishop. If it reaches the d3, that's a very strong bishop. So that's why we offer a trade, and white cannot really say no. If white plays c4, that could be. I don't think that's a good move since after c4, so these two pawns are a bit like weak on the center, especially this one. This is the isolated pawn. If the pawn is at e3, probably you can play c4. But since this is isolated, so c4 is not a good move. So in this game, so Moroni accept the exchange and then castle. So at this moment, when we look at the evaluation bar, so they are very balanced. So it's just 0. So I think white has strength at the um, like semi-open file, and the position of the two knights are slightly better than a6 and e7 knights. But I mean the double pawns are a bit like problematic. So since white has a very strong control at e5, so it's really hard for black to push the pawn at the king side. So black started to attack on the queen side, which makes sense. So knight e5, we control the center, f6, and our knight go back. So you might ask a question, so since our knight go back and forth, so what's the point? I think that's still a very valid move, because I mean, even though we waste one move with this back and forth, we actually have a weakness on the e6. So this pawn became like backward. So yeah, so that's what white is thinking about. So queen d6, attacking f4. So we play rook e1 first. So we want to aim at e6. So if black take our pawn, so we will take this pawn and we will control the open file. So white won't, black won't, will not do that. So black play knight c7 to adjust the position of the knight and support e6. g3 support f4, knight f5. So since white is, yeah, at this moment it's not good to play g4 probably, because this pawn is become a bit honey. So we will take the f5 and adding some pressure at d4. So this is the weakness black really want to target at. So rook d1, a bit like strengthening the d4 pawn, and rook c8, prepare to open up the c file. So that's why white put queen to d3 and c4. So I don't think, like, I don't know if c4 is a good move, because since black wants to attack on the queen side, so in this case we close the queen side with this move. I think the reason probably is black want to expand on the queen side, and later on maybe with d5 and b4 to attack the queen side. So yeah. So queen goes to e2, and actually with this pivot, so white actually moved the queen and the rook, like doubling at the e6. But this is not even enough, since there is a knight guarding e6. So how can we like attack on the adding like maybe a knight at e6? Let's see. So white played knight f1. So here white actually has a very good knight at f3. So the d2 knight is a bit worse position wise. So that's why we want to make the second move of piece development, and the plan is, let's see, g4, kicking the knight away, and then knight to g3. So white moved two knight closer to the king side. So let's see how it will like attack the black king. Rook e8 and g5. So if black take our pawn, we will take the pawn, and the pawn is becoming more like weak, becoming weaker, and we can also maybe take that with the knight. So and we can attack e6. So I think in this case, and also as Angel suggested, the best move for black is rook f8, and then black is slightly better, and black should like remain the pawn at f6. Otherwise, the e5 will become outpost. So in this case, black play maybe a move not as good as rook f8, and you see the after f5, so white become like up 1 point, or maybe up like 6.6. So knight e5, so white has a very strong knight at e5. So maybe from black's perspective, so even though white has a very strong at e5, the chessboard is very close. So it is very likely that the game will end up as a draw. So queen h5 and knight a8. I think maybe the reason is moving the queen, or clear up the 7th rank, so the queen can go back to go to the king, closer to the king quicker, and also the knight could probably go to b6 and a4 to attack at the b2. Rook e3, yeah, knight b6, and rook e1. So white double the two rooks. So the purpose is very clear. Talking at the e6, 94. So black want to kind of like cover a bit the e6, but that won't probably work. So white play f3. So knight has to go back. But at least the f3 pawn like block the rook goes to h3. So maybe that's the reason black also play a back and forth move. So what's next? So white like tries to open up the king side with g6, and it's very clear that black doesn't want to open up the king side, so it play h6. Okay, so this position, a question: how can white attack its opponent? Like you can like pause the video here and think about it. Maybe write 2 to 3 moves, thinking about how can we set up a plan to make a follow-up attack. So in this position, so in the real game, so white played knight f7. The engine doesn't say this is a good move because it goes back to a very balanced position. I think the reason is white really want to open up e-file, and I can show you the moves later on. But this turned out not to be the best move. So actually, the best move, what the engine suggested, is queen h3. And I think the reason is pretty clear, because since black closed up the g file and the h file, and the white doesn't have any way to open the two files at this moment, so it's no point leaving the queen at h5. So probably we'll move the queen to e2, and we will have 3 pieces attack the e6. So when we have more pieces at e6, and then maybe knight f7 is more powerful, and also we can leave the space for the g3 knight. Then the knight can get king closer to the black king and target at the g7. So maybe the best move is queen h3, and if black play c7, hoping to make the rook to e7, so we can play queen g2. And what's next? Maybe b4. Black want to open up the queen side. And in this case, we can take the pawn first, and if black take that, because otherwise we will probably end up with isolated pawn at a3. So we will take the pawn first. And in this case, we can play knight to h5. And if black play knight a4, they're targeting our b4. Since we have a queen at the g3, so we don't have to worry, and we can play actually either queen to e2 or rook to a1 to control the a file. So if we play queen to e2, so this is our initial plan. Black take that, we take that. And what if, let's say, if black play queen to b3 to aiming at our c3. So in this case, we can play knight f7. And so if black take the pawn, we can take the knight. Queen takes that, we will win the knight. So black probably take our knight first, and without taking the knight straight away, we can actually take the e pawn. And this g6 pawn is very dangerous to our opponent. And if take our rook, we will take that, and we will pin in the knight. So we will still take the knight back. And if rook goes to f8, so we can forcing a rook trade at back rank and also starting a checkmate. So this is very tricky. So if black play rook to here, so this is actually a disaster, and we can checkmate by sacrificing the queen. So in this case, white is, as the engine suggested, is better. It's better, like with 1.12 plus score on the chessboard. So in this game, so white actually doesn't seem have such patience. It's played knight f7 at this point. Black take that. So it's not wise to take the knight, since black will take the pawn. And yeah, since the queen goes to f7, black is pretty safe. So in this game, so white take the pawn instead. It's a bit risky, but maybe it's worth trying. So the knight go to d6. So yeah, otherwise it will be captured. So white take another pawn. So white basically winning 2 pawns with like losing a knight. So material-wise, white has, lost some points. I think the good thing for white is it potentially have some attacking opportunities. But actually, the engine evaluated black is slightly better. I think black has very good, has like 1 pawn up, than 1 point up than white. Rook f8, targeting the f file. So I think black is defending very well. And queen b8, offering a queen trade. Okay, so actually, so usually when we say, when we have, for example, like advantage in material, so we can simplify the game with trading the queens. But in this case, we need to be very cautious. Actually, after the trade, so white has a very strong, like strong connected pawns, especially the f4 goes to e5. So the double pawn problem is resolved. So maybe black can play knight a4 and threatening queen b4 if white doesn't take the black queen. So here, the white is actually turns out to be a bit better. Let's see how the game goes. So this is the end game. So in end game, so black have like 1 extra knight, but the thing is sometimes if black cannot deal with the pawns very well, so the pass pawn are really dangerous for the stronger side. So rook c6. I think this move is open up this file for the e pawn. b5, and also of course this move is also guarding the c file. So this is the passed pawn of its opponent. b5. So this pawn is really strong, and it's really hard for the knight to catch it up, since b6 unstoppable. So in this game, black played knight d3, and it's actually turned out to be a very risky move. So maybe rook b8 is a bit better. So if b6, then at least we can play knight a4, and we can probably take the pawn. So knight b4. So rook c5. So this is a very good move. So in this case, so this pawn is still like guarded, and also white can play rook b5 to attack the knight, and also the knight is not able to go away, otherwise the d5 pawn is captured. So rook c5 is a very good move, so basically guarding these 2 pawns, and also potentially maybe b7 and rook c8. So the rook is still on the c file. So rook e8. So actually white is winning on this position after this move. So you can pause the video and figure out what is the best move for white. So the only best move is b7, threatening rook c8, and black play king f8, and white goes to the back rank, and knight c6, but it doesn't help really. So f4. So there will be another passed pawn on the chessboard. So c3, f5, f6. So these pawns are really strong. g7. So yeah, rook c8. So this is a very good move to force a rook trade, and we will have the queen, and black resigned.